Yeah, my internet connection sucks. I live like almost right in the dead zone. If y'all can hear me, give me a thumbs up because I'm charging my phone right now. Jacob, you're more than welcome to come back. I was having fun talking with you, so just invite yourself. Or Miss, what's her name? Teresa. One of the two. Jacob, if you want to come back, I'd love to continue talking with you. I got my phone on the charger, so we can talk. Continue talking definitely. So far, can you try again? Because I didn't get it. Try one more time. Thank you right now. Can you
Yeah,
see
I can
me?
see you.
Can you flip your phone? Because you're like, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm charging
Are
my
you using
phone
your
right now.
Are you using your computer?
No, I had to use my phone because for some reason with my computer I couldn't invite you.
Oh, right. It just
Like
looks a
I
little
can
this
go
just looks a
live,
little
but I
different
couldn't invite you.
from my end.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, what kind of computer do you have? Like, is it a?
I can show you. It's a tower desktop.
But I mean, is it Microsoft or Apple?
Microsoft.
I'm assuming. Yeah. So it shouldn't. I don't know what's going on then. So I already posted part one. For all those joining, this is Mr. Jacob right here. Um, he's our first guest in my series called "An Atheist Reads the Bible." Mr. Jacob, would you like to paraphrase what we talked about in the
We were
first part?
comparing the New Testament to the Old Testament to show that there are a great deal of similarities between Jesus and different parts of the Old Testament to indicate that.
So between Jesus and other characters in the
Right,
Old Testament, is that what you're
right.
saying? So Jesus is not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Historical, is that what you're saying?
No,
Unique.
unique.
Right, right. He was he was a blending of several different Old Testament characters into one entity.
I mean, even look at Christianity versus Islam. How many similarities are there between Christianity and
Great
Islam?
deal. Great deal.
Now, I think I'll actually my next book actually is a book I'm reading right now. If anybody likes Dating Life is the Game, you guys should pick this up. This book is a good read. Neil Strauss, by the way. If anybody likes going out to bars and clubs, this book I'll go over in a future video.
How in this
But
episode would you like to talk about polytheism? And okay.
sure, what would you?
So at one time the God of Israel was previously an Iron Age God of War. He was not.
Also,
Yeah.
can I
Yeah,
interject?
please.
Now I may be getting the names mixed up, but Ra, the sun god, is essentially the god of the Bible.
Yeah, it depends on which version of Ra we're talking about. There are actually several Egyptian gods that are called Ra. There's Ra the sun god, the primary Ra. Then you have,
That's what I'm talking.
but the one,
Well, as an atheist, you're way more versed on this than I am. So I tip my hat to you.
yeah, I announced a while back that I'm writing a book. That I have a theory about who to, uh, my own theory about which God became the God of the Bible. I did a whole series on that last year called "How Ares Became God." I'm actually saying the Greek god of war,
You mean the god of war?
Ares.
You mean the Greek
Yeah,
god of war,
I
right?
think Ares and God are the same dude. Now,
So you believe Ares, the Greek god of
yes,
war, and the God of the
yes,
Bible are the same
yes.
person?
Let me
Yes. Please explain.
Before I even get into why I think that, I want you to go to Deuteronomy chapter 32.
Is that in the old or
Old.
new? Let me see if I can actually find it this time. Because I'm actually glad that you came in because you're way more well versed than I am. So if you want to be a continuing part of this series, I'd love for you
Sure,
to
if you
do
want
it.
me to. I would love to be
So
on.
what was it?
It's Deuteronomy
Deuteronomy?
chapter 32.
I'm assuming that's with a D.
Yeah. De-
Because I can't find.
Deuteronomy is in the
Okay,
first
yeah.
5 books.
Okay, yeah. I see Daniel, then Deuteronomy. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, Deuteronomy.
See, I'm
It's
horrible.
fine.
I'm horrible at
It's
this.
fine. You're getting there.
See, after joining this group, I actually might read this book.
Aside from all the violence, there's some pretty interesting verses in there,
I
contradictions,
mean,
and
in my
oh,
opinion,
oh yeah.
if you take the Bible as a work of fiction and you read it with a grain of salt, it's I would say like a 6 out of 10 book.
Okay.
So hold on, let me find it. I'm
Take your
almost
time.
there. Okay, I'm at Deuteronomy, the 5th book of
Yes,
Moses, correct?
that's the final book of Moses. Chapter 42.
Okay, so what should I
Chapter
read?
42, verse 8 to 9.
Sorry, chapter what?
32.
32. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ! Like now I know why they go to Sunday school. Fuck.
They're not going to tell you this. They're not going to bring that verse up with Sunday school, though, or verses unlike the other ones I was talking about, because this is
Okay, chapter
this is
32.
probably the
What verse?
biggest contradiction in the entire Bible, right here, what you're about to read.
Okay, so what's the
Verses 8 to 9.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the numbers of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land, and in a way of howling.
Okay, now you're going.
He led him about and stretched to him. He kept him as the apple. You know, I just saw something else. What if Jacob is actually the apple? I just realized that. And that's the first time me reading that.
Oh.
Do you think Jacob is actually the apple of the tree of Eden? Or is that just me reaching too far?
When I looked at it, it looks like the apple and the Jacob thing have different origins. I don't see how they could be the same.
Well, you seem more well versed, so I'm gonna take your expertise.
Well, anyway, you notice how the Lord is.
And I almost finished my bottle, so
Do you notice how the Lord is inheriting Israel?
yeah, and is that why today in modern political politics that Israel is such a highly contested piece of land?
Yeah, I suppose you could put it that way. But what I'm trying to say is, those 2 verses you just read, you actually went a little beyond those 2 verses, but that's fine. It's all good. Well, you don't have to apologize. It's saying that God has a.
Well, we're doing apologetics.
It's saying
right?
It said that it's basically saying that God has a progenitor, because you can't inherit something unless you have parents. That would be impossible.
So God has a parent.
Yes.
God had parents.
The Most High, this not the same one. It's not really the same as the Most High New Testament. This is kind of different in a way, but but basically he's got a father. He's inheriting from his father.
Now, is that Father Jesus or is that Father God?
The Father of God, not Jesus. We're talking about because see in this book
No, what you're saying, but see what Christians will say is Jesus is God, or no? Wait, how does it go?
Yeah, they're going to bring up the Trinity. The thing is, when the book of Deuteronomy is written, they did not have the Trinity in mind. They didn't. The people that wrote the Old Testament didn't even know anything about a Jesus. This is like way before that.
Yeah, wasn't there like 3 different councils that eventually led to the New Testament?
Oh, there's a hell of a lot more than that.
I mean, I know of 3.
Yeah, Nicaea, the Council of Constantinople.
Hold on, I might go black for a second. Just give me a second.
And
just start talking.
If I remember correctly, Constantinople was the council that created the Trinity doctrine.
And then don't forget the King James Council. We might as well call it the.
Oh man. But anyway, Nicaea was a reaffirmation that Jesus is the Son of God, because they were trying to quell the Arian controversy. That's what Nicaea was about.
So if any Christian ever claims to me that Jesus is God, I'll just say, read the Council
of Nicaea.
Council of Nicaea, which stated that Jesus is the Son of God, not God himself. So.
Yeah, a bunch of men did. Yeah.
Fuck, the only thing I hate about wine is it makes you pee. So if you want to think about the next part of our segment, I'll be right back.
All right, so let's talk about some God's Father for a little bit. So we just read it. I just had him read those two verses. That's Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 to 9. It is saying that God, or the Lord, is inheriting Israel from a being called the Most High. Very important two verses there. Completely contradicts monotheism. That's all in the toilet, just being flushed down. Because how can God not have parents and is inheriting Israel at the same time? That makes no sense. Unless he has parents. And here's the thing. I got another verse for you guys. See if I can find it. So in the book of Exodus, we're going to be looking at the 10 Commandments. I might not even have to read this verse because y'all are probably familiar with it already. I think it's in Exodus 21.
So what did I miss?
I was repeating what I was saying earlier about Deuteronomy. Now I'm trying to find that verse in Exodus, in the book of Exodus.
I have a question. Is it a sin to spill wine on the Bible?
To spill wine?
No, I said, is it a sin to spill wine on the Bible?
Well, not as far as the world. I don't think it is. Because you spilled wine on. Did you spill wine on it?
Yeah, red wine, the blood of Christ. The cheap blood of Christ. This is the cheap blood of Christ, but still the blood of Christ.
Actually, if you go to Greek mythology and you look up if you look up Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and vegetation, or he's definitely got a wine. He's the dying rising god. I think he's vegetation too. There's a tradition. There's a tradition of worship for Dionysus in Greece, and it talks about eating his blood like wine and eating his flesh like meat. And this is
wasn't that where the Catholics get the idea
Jesus?
of the crackers in the wine?
I would say definitely, yeah. Now let's go back to the Egyptian thing. Oh wait, before I do, I'm gonna bring up Exodus. I can't remember which verse it is.
Yeah, so since I'm the host, tell me which page to go to.
I will. And
this Bible is a lot easier to follow. Already, Pastor James, if you ever listen to this, Pastor James, the King James version.
Exodus chapter 30. Exodus chapter 34, verse.
Hold on one second. Hold on.
Yeah.
Alphabetical. Should I go alphabetical?
It's the second book of the entire Bible. So it's not.
Dude, I have no idea what I'm doing.
It's okay.
I'm just having fun. And trying to get viewers. And I'm so glad you're here because otherwise I'd just be jacking off myself in my video.
It's quite all right.
Okay, so I'm at Exodus, the birth of
chapter 34.
Why are there so many goddamn chapters?
I didn't write this damn thing. I don't know.
Well, nobody really knows who did it.
Yeah, they're anonymous. I mean,
it wasn't Jesus.
It
wasn't God. Now, if Jesus himself wrote this, it would be a lot easier to believe. Let me tell you.
I do have a good idea of what type of people wrote them, but not who wrote them.
They're probably merchants or low-income people, or the opposite. They were royalty trying to get the low-income people to follow
Well,
them.
the people that wrote the New Testament, that's definitely the case. The one in the Old, that's a different
You
story.
said chapter 34?
Chapter 44 of the book of Exodus.
Okay, what verse?
Okay, verse 14.
I'm going to read 13, 14, and 15 so we're not taking it out of context.
All right.
Chapter 34 of the book of Exodus. Verse 13. But ye shall not destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other God for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice.
All right. Notice something here. It's not saying that other gods don't exist. It's saying God is jealous. Now, why would God be jealous if other gods don't exist?
I thought God was all powerful all things, you know.
If you read Judges chapter 1, verse 19, he actually got defeated by, I'm serious.
So God got defeated by chariots.
God and Jacob did.
You know what I think? You know what, in my personal, this may be, you may call me a crazy History Channel buff or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah.
But you know what I think? A lot of ancient times people's representations of gods were.
What do you think they were? Aliens?
Yes, in some form or another. Because if you look at the logic behind how, there's trillions and trillions of galaxies, stars, and planets in our universe. What's not to say one of those ancient civilizations visited the ancient Hebrews or the ancient Egyptians?
Here, I'm gonna send you some information, but I'm not gonna.
Okay, send it through Facebook.
I'm not gonna do it here publicly. I'm gonna do it on Messenger. We'll continue this conversation on there. Mike go public with this information. I'm not going to clarify what the hell that is.
Now, do I believe that?
But that's another time. Anyway.
I mean, do I believe that 100%? Do I believe that 100%? I would say it's probably like.
Well, what I'm trying to say is I got a completely different story on that, and I'm not ready to talk about that here.
Well, I won't judge you when you send it. I'll read through it.
All right. Anyway, so in Judges 1:19, here's what it says: Hashem was with Judah, and he drove out the inhabitants of the mountains, but the inhabitants of the valley could not be driven out because they had iron chariots.
So what does that say?
Apologists will try to tell me, well, it's Judah that got defeated, not God. You see, Hashem, the Lord, was with Judah. But you see, he was with Judah, he's supposed to Israel. And it's not clarifying on which one of them gets defeated. It looks like it's both. Because they could not drive out the iron chariots. Or he could not drive out the iron chariots. And why couldn't God do anything about it? So it's like, something's wrong with the idea.
So God's not all powerful.
Yeah, so this is just another point. An Iron Age God is getting his butt kicked by iron chariots. Huh.
So that would be like President Trump. President Trump commanding the U.S. Army to go over to, say, South Africa, and the South Africans defeating him with spears and sticks. Am I not correct?
That would be humiliating if that were to happen.
No, but I'm saying essentially it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Anyway, I'm going to touch on the Egyptian thing real quick since you were asking me about the Ra and God thing. I have heard people have ideas about who the God of the Bible is. They'll say he's Ra, the sun god. Yeah. And he'll throw Marduk in it too. But if you actually read Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 2, Marduk is mentioned, or Merodach, depending on how you pronounce his name, as a false god, so he
Right.
couldn't be the God of the Bible. Anyway, in Hebrew, they pronounce the name of the Lord Adonai. Did you ever hear that? Have you ever heard about that before?
To be honest with you, I've never heard of that.
Okay. Now, Adonai is derived from the Hebrew word Atum, which means Lord. Now, Adon,
Now I kind of see where you go with this.
you see, monotheism didn't start in Judaism. It originates from Egypt.
No,
The
pagan.
Egyptians had monotheism first. In the 14th century BC, Pharaoh Akhenaten declared that his god, the Aten, is the one true God, and that all gods are either different forms of the Aten or don't exist at all, one way or another. The Aten is the one true God. He's a sun disk, and he cannot be depicted either. Like the book of Exodus says, you cannot make idols of the Lord. Now
Right.
Sigmund Freud, who wrote Moses and Monotheism, identified the Egyptian god, the Atum, with Aten. And I can see why, because etymologically, they're the same god. Atum, you see, as Ra, okay, he starts the flood. He raises the waters anew to flood the entire world. And then the next thing he does as Ra, as Atum Ra, he brings the gods aboard a boat.
Hold on, I'm gonna
Yeah.
pause for a second, so I'll be right back.
He can bring gods on a boat. Because in Egypt, it certainly was viewed that way. The god that has the boat and the god that starts the flood are the same.
Well, you know the Egypt Nile floods
Yeah.
I think it's what every um some odd years it floods.
Yeah.
So they probably
Just periodic flooding
from that, and that literally wipes out hundreds of people or thousands of people, because normally the waters of the Nile are very small, and they're not more than an average river.
Yes.
So for them to go from that to a flooding state would obviously kill hundreds of thousands of people, logically. So I can see where they get that, from.
So basically, this god Aten, Adonai, Ares, is actually different ways of pronouncing the same god. So really.
Right.
And you see, throughout the Bible, even in the New Testament, it's filled with lamb sacrifice. Jesus, for example, he's called the Lamb of God because he represents the sacrifice of the sheep during Passover. Now, I will admit,
Well, wasn't the lamb and the sheep the main source of clothing?
Yeah,
For people back in that
and the
time.
book of Genesis, when Cain and Abel were doing their thing with God, Abel sacrifices a sheep. God is pleased, and Cain gives God something else other than a sacrifice of a sheep, and that makes God unpleased because God is Aries. And see, and if you look up astrology, there's an age called the Age of Aries, named after the god of war, and you can see there's the constellation of the ram or the lamb. It's the same damn thing. And even in Rome, Romulus and Remus, okay, they're brothers now. They're supposed to be the sons of Mars. Romulus kills his brother Remus when they get into an argument. And there are shepherds present in the story.
Just like Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
Just like Cain and
And
Abel.
Romulus, according to Roman mythology,
Just
founded the Roman kingdom. Rome is named after Romulus. It's the same story. And Mars is their god.
There's like multiple versions of the same story.
However, to admit, archaeologically, there's actually more evidence that Romulus and Remus existed than there is for Cain and Abel. Because they found the wall of Remus, the first Roman defense wall.
Right. Man, why do we only have 3 viewers? This is good fucking shit. What time is it over there?
1:24 p.m.
I think it's something like that right now. It's hard to check without my phone. It's 2:24, so you're an hour behind.
Yeah, I'll send you some information later on, but
I mean, if you want to stay on, I was planning to broadcast maybe for like another 30 minutes. If you want to keep staying on with me for
I'll stay on until I run out of ideas.
Yeah, because honestly, you're gonna be a great help to this series. Because otherwise, I'd be sitting here with my dick in my hands. So what should I look up next?
Well, right now I was more on the outside of Judaism thing, trying to connect monotheism together. But if you actually,
Well, how about we go to paganism?
okay, that's what you want to do.
Well, I mean, paganism is the basis for many religions.
Well, yeah, sure.
I mean, it's the basis for Christianity, Egyptian, or whatever we want to call it, Egyptian religion. Judaism, Islam.
Yeah.
I can keep going. And yet the pagans were hated upon by everybody. Especially the Christians.
So the thing what I can definitely tell you is there's a group of people out there that are trying to worship that one God. He's Aten. The other gods get their ass kicked, so they bring in place. That's for sure.
Right. I'm listening. Excuse me. I apologize.
No problem. Let's go back to God's Father. I did a video on this a while back. I was bringing up Amun, the Egyptian god of the air. Here, I'm going to send you these pictures on Facebook Messenger right now.
Yeah, whenever we finish this chat, I'll definitely.
Yeah, we're going to compare these two images together between Amun and the Semitic god El, and you'll see.
Have you added me as a friend?
Yeah, you sent me a friend request and I accepted it. Yeah.
Okay, and I have a question. I just started a video game. Is it too loud?
I can barely hear it. It's fine.
Okay. Because I'm kind of, I want to multi.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if I can play a video game and chat with you, because I literally have nothing to do today. I might go down to the bars later, but other than that, I have nothing to do.
So on top of those two verses that we were talking about earlier in Deuteronomy.
Was that about the?
No, it's about the inheritance of the Lord. You see.
Yeah, the fish was obvious, but that other one was kind of like.
Yeah, so the Egyptian god Amun, he divided the lands of Egypt into different sections and gave it to his children.
So they basically did gerrymandering.
You could put it that way. He's kind of like he didn't want to rule Egypt anymore, so he had his children rule in his place. And now, what Akhenaten did is he kicked all those other gods out, and now the Aten is raised over to be supreme over everything, all creation.
Right. So he took it from many to one, correct?
No, it's actually it's actually they took one God and elevated him to the supreme over everything. So it's not a combination of several. It's actually the same God continuing. See,
Okay.
Aten is the god of Judaism before he became the god of Judaism. You see, we have Atenism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam in that order.
Wait, can you
You
repeat
have
that for the
you have
viewers?
Atenism, Judaism, Christianity,
And what
and
is
Islam.
Atenism for those who don't know?
Atenism is the religion of the Aten, the monotheistic god of Egypt.
So, which is essentially Egyptian mono or
That's
polytheism.
monotheistic, strictly.
And then after that,
Judaism,
and then after
Christianity,
that, and
Islam.
finally, gotcha.
Yeah, it's and if you read the hymn of the Aten, it talks about how the languages have been changed. So he's also the same entity that confused the tongues of man in the book of Genesis. We already
So
got
are you saying like he? Are you saying like he's the reason for the snake that can talk? Are you saying like
well,
he's the reason for the snake that can talk?
the serpent is obviously his enemy. He's trying to give man knowledge that he doesn't want man to have. And
Right. Well, I thought knowledge is always positive, right? Or whatever.
well,
I'm trying to
Aten
think of the thing. If anybody now me and Jacob are just going back and forth. If anybody wants us to quote a specific verse, now the title of this video is "An Atheist Reads the Bible," and my friend Jacob over here is also an atheist agnostic. He seems to be a little bit more agnostic than atheist than me. But if you want either me or him, this is the first part in my series. If you want either me or him to read any specific verse and give our thoughts on it, if you want to ask us questions, I'm trying to get watch your feedback. We got 4 people on here. You know, type a question. It doesn't matter how stupid it might seem. Give us a question. Let us know what your thoughts are. We have, I have all day. I hope Jacob can stay on as long as he can because he's been a great contributor so far. And if you like what he has to say, he will definitely be on future episodes of A, reading the Bible with an atheist, B, reading the Torah with an atheist will be the next. No, reading the Quran with an atheist will be the next in this series. And finally, reading the Torah with an atheist. So, if you like Jacob and what he has to say, if you like what I have to say, in my opinion, please let us know in the comments so we can more tailor our videos towards your interests. And with that, I'm going to leave it to Jacob for a few seconds while nature calls. So go ahead, Jacob.
well, basically, they took the story of the Aten and turned it into the biblical God. Because here's the thing: you see, Akhenaten has a brother called Tuthmosis. Now, what's very interesting about this is that Akhenaten and Tuthmosis sounds like Aaron and Moses. So Akhenaten brought the monotheistic religion, while Tuthmosis and Moses is his brother. That kind of thing. So you can even get the biblical characters out of the Egyptian story.
Yeah, we actually got 5 viewers. How's it going, Jacob? I'm back.
Yeah, I was talking about Akhenaten has a brother called Tuthmosis. Now it's interesting.
So, in your opinion, Akhenaten was what again for the viewers who just joined?
Aaron and Tuthmosis is Moses, his brother. The brothers Aaron and Moses.
And he was the Egyptian god of what?
He was the Egyptian pharaoh that believed that was declared Aten to be the one true God.
Okay, so essentially he was Jesus in the time of Pharaoh. Or
I'm not really saying.
he was God in the I'm trying to simplify it.
Well, Akhenaten did say that he is the living image of the Aten.
Let me Google this because this is actually very interesting. I'm gonna go. What should I Google to find a good source?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of sources. You could just type the Aten, the sun disk.
Do you know how to spell that?
A
You might
T
spell it
A
before.
T E N.
Hold on 1 second. What was that?
Aten.
Aten.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is the disc of the son of ancient Egyptian mythology. Okay. Actually, I think the one you're looking for. Okay. Does this sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Aten is the focus of monotheistic religion of Atenism, established by Imhotep IV, who later took the name Akhenaten. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten, yes.
Now I have a question. I'm sure people are wondering: is this the Imhotep that was featured in the Mummy?
There is actually another entity in Egypt actually called Imhotep, the god.
Did he portray the Egyptian? Well, I'm just going by what Hollywood says, so I don't know how truthful they are. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you want to talk about Hollywood, I would say the Aten is the same as in Sabiner, an X-Men Apocalypse, and
As who?
Sabiner, the mutant.
I never saw that movie.
Yeah. Because in that movie, he actually says he is Elohim and Ra, Krishna, and other names.
Hello. Okay, so one of the first sites I
Yeah.
found, it says during the reign of
Aten.
Akhenaten, the Aten was installed as the principal god of ancient Egypt, and the worship of many traditional gods of ancient Egypt were rejected,
Right.
such as Horus. Uh, what's the god of death? I can't remember what his name was.
Anubis.
Anubis, thank you. Yeah, those are the two I always remember: Horus and Anubis. Um, the Aten was not a new god, but an obscure aspect of the sun god worshipped as early as the Old Kingdom. So I'll let you go with it from there.
Well, essentially, that god was taken by the Israelites, whom were actually Canaanites, not people that were slaves. Because
And weren't they the slaves of the Egyptians in that time?
no, they weren't enslaved. They were not enslaved at all. There's no evidence that the Israelites were ever enslaved by the Egyptians.
I mean, according to the Bible, or maybe I'm just stupid right now. Am I stupid?
Here's the thing: no, I'm not. I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying that the Bible,
No, don't worry about it. I'm
it's a
just saying.
legendary account. There's no evidence that there was ever any enslavement in Egypt. The Bible claims the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, but there's no proof.
Okay, I have a question for you then. Who built the pyramids?
Well, that's a big time controversy right there. I mean, even historians are actually starting to question their idea who built the pyramids right now. Uh,
I mean, there's at least a dozen and a half theories on how the pyramids were built.
yeah, there is a lot of ideas.
Can you hear my game in the background, or
I can still hear you. I hear the game, but it's not a big deal.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it down just a
Okay.
little bit because I'm just trying to keep myself occupied because I have ADD.
It's all good.
Actually, I'm gonna focus on you until I get off this chat thing. So, what's prescribed theory of how the pyramids were built? Do you believe? Now, this could be any theory. I don't necessarily mean mainstream.
I honestly, even mainstream is starting to be unsure of what happened. All I can say is that at one time it was said that the gods built the pyramids.
Now, this brings me back to my point earlier. Do you think ancient people's encounters with extraterrestrials were in fact misrepresentations of God figures? They were physical beings. They were physical beings in our realm as we know it today, but because of their power and the amount of sophisticated
I do have an
technology
idea of who they probably were, but it's an idea that hasn't really been talked about before.
I mean, if you want to talk about it, I'm more than nobody's commenting on it, so we're just rambling right now.
I prefer time to talk to you about that in private because I don't have myself organized to talk about this in public yet.
Well, you're already way more organized than I
But
am.
this part here is super complicated.
Okay, well, you can text me that in DM.
Probably, if I decide that I want to, we might do it next part or at some point in the future.
Okay, so since me personally, I honestly think it's a 50-50 toss-up between whether it's the Israelites or other slave labor forces being used to mass, and I'm talking mass slavery. And this is where I get in with the Bible talking about slavery being morally acceptable. Were the pyramids built with slavery? In my opinion, it's 50% chance if they were built by human ingenuity alone.
Well,
They were built by slaves.
a hand and chisel and slaves are tired lifting stones, which, by the way, our cranes to this day, our most powerful cranes cannot lift a rock
Can't do it.
of the pyramids.
No, but I'm saying let's say 100,000 slaves. Let's say you had 100,000 slaves lifting one of those pyramid blocks into place. Is that physically humanly possible?
No, I don't think so.
Even with 100,000 people, that is still a far stretch of the imagination.
Oh yeah.
Now, is it physically possible? Who knows? We cannot test it today. There's no way we can test it. Now, the one thing the Bible cannot do is test physical evidence. There's no physical evidence to God. There's no physical evidence to Jesus. And apart with the pyramids, now we see the physical evidence left behind. So that brings me to the question, was it people that built it? Was it people enslaved that built it? Or was it people in some other force that we do not understand to this day? In my opinion, it's either 50-50 whether it was people and slaves, and I mean mass slaves, in the hundreds of thousands to millions of slaves over the courses of many hundreds of years or many decades. Or, this is the or, some type of extraterrestrial force came down and visited the ancient Egyptians, gave them technology and wisdom, and those who wrote it down misinterpreted this as being a holy God figure. And that's my opinion. And you can add to that or you can contradict it.
Well, I'll give you my thoughts on this privately. Anyway, I gotta head
Anyway,
out.
yeah, I mean nobody's added to this conversation, so I think it's probably about time we end it, and I'll just post it to Facebook.
All right. I'll message you and
So if you want to be on the next installment of, hold on, I got to show this before you leave. If you want to be on the next installment of An Atheist Reads the Bible, I invite you, Jacob, and I invite anybody else to join us. And with that, this is Alex. I'm signing off, and
Jacob
you
Berman.
are signing off, and this will be posted in a few seconds. Oh, Sadie, you're still here? Well, before I sign off, Sadie, what did you think? Thank you, I appreciate that. Should I do a part two? Because I am about to sign off and do other things. So, should I do a part two tomorrow or later tonight? What do you think, Sadie? I apologize, I'm just a little buzzed right now. You know what, with that, okay. So, yes, we should definitely, okay. So, for all those who care, tomorrow. Tomorrow we will do a part two. We will figure out a time and a place. Well, obviously, the little place will be Facebook. But tomorrow we will do a part two of An Atheist Reads the Bible. Our first guest was Jacob, who was an agnostic atheist who was a major contributor to this first part. I welcome all atheists, agnostics, or Christians, or Muslims, or Jews, if there's any in the group, to join our conversation in the future. I want to make this a long-running series and to see if we can actually get group involvement. So with that, this is Alex, signing off.